What's going on, you guys? So we are back to give you guys another series review straight from Netflix, and I'm talking about Twilight of the Gods. I have a host here, Ronan and Shane. What's up, Ronan?
Um, Excuse my language, Sam. You can censor this later, but to quote one of the characters in the story, "Fuck the gods." Um, I have been looking forward to this show to the point that I only saw a teaser, and that's it, dude. Like, this is the coldest I've gone into a show,
Right.
and I'm happy I did. I'm very happy I did.
Yeah. So you guys, this is a non-spoiler review, so we're gonna do our best to not reveal too much, but I'm gonna let Ronan drive on this one. Ronan, what was it that enticed you initially about this show to the point that you watched the first episode? What was your impression of it?
The enticing part was that I like mythology. I like all this stuff, even though I haven't read all of it yet. I'm planning on to dive deep into these different mythologies. Greek, Norse, the samurai in Japan. Like, I love mythology, and I love animation, and I am a Zack Snyder fan. And when I first heard rumble that like he was planning on doing a story with Norse mythology called Twilight of the Gods, and he's gonna use animation, and it was on Netflix. I'm like, okay, well, how's it gonna be? And then the first images came out, and I was like, this looks like Samurai Jack, kind of close enough. And I'm like, what is this? And just seeing the first teaser, it hooked me because like the Northman. I love the Northman, so I love this type of stories and elements, and the complexity with characters and gods, demigods, and humans. And with the first episode, it tells you that it's like all stories past this age, it's different interpretations of stories. Lion King, Northman, it's the same things, same story, different interpretation. This one, it's a different interpretation of these Norse mythology stories, and I love that it has Zach's stank, and yet it it was all about characters. It's all about Siegfried, who like you care as a warrior, and he just wants to be happy, wants to combine two cultures, two different people, and how in the midst of it they meddle with gods meddle with their affair, and now there's beef had. And it this I think this is a good example to show you what animation can do. And we said it in a joking way, but we're not joking. This show isn't for kids, and yet you could do this type of storytelling in animation. You can use blood, you can use sex, you can use violence, you can use vulgar, you can use um demigods to say a whole lot about how you feel. And so the fact that um someone goes through a traumatic event and is willing to go head to head with a demigod, it's compelling affect. And the fact that um, you just see the beauty in this animation. I joked it about it, how a train could be a wallpaper. And so after this first episode that we've seen, the first episode that we've seen, I was just hooked. Hooked. What about you, man?
Yeah, so this show is insane. I think the first episode when I watched it, I think I was watching it with Busy Braun, and my jaw like legit hit the ground because I was like, what did I just watch? And I mean, you kind of alluded to it, the very opening of it, like how you know these two different factions kind of meet, and part of it is love, part of it is kinship. It's just such a great kind of like start, right? And then when the gods do appear, it's kind of like normally you see the gods based on somebody asking for help or trying to deal with recompense for something else. This is one of those times where it's like you really see. I think the best example I can give is Hercules, right? The original Hercules series. Um, Kevin Sorbo's character, when you find out kind of what happens to his wife, right? What sets him off on this journey, it reminds me of that richness of like out of tragedy, where is it going to bring you? And I think that Zach has been able to do something that I didn't think really possible, is to add this level of rawness and sickness to how certain people interpret uh, the gods from this kind of mythology. Because what was it? Percy Jackson, right? They just did a Percy Jackson show on Disney Plus. There was an episode about Medusa, right? And it was a small little conversation where Medusa, you kind of find out how she becomes Medusa. And if you read, the actual mythology, it is messed up and dark, right? But Disney Plus, they're not gonna go and tell how, why. They'll allude to it. I was surprised that they went that route. This show, they don't care. They will show it, you will feel it, and even there's certain gods that you're like, oh wow, I know this god. Like he's cool, or they're cool, or she's cool. You're gonna get the best and the worst of all of it, and they spare no expense. And I think that the fact that they're willing to do that this season and go this route, this can continue for a very long time, even well past Sigrid's character story arc. And to your point, I'll say this is very bloody, bro. And it's we've seen decapitations, we've seen maimings, we've seen burnings, we've seen uh abuse, we've seen sexual abuse. It is very dark. It is very dark. So please, if you can't hear us, do not let your children see this. Anybody that is 16 or below should not be watching this at all. I'm just really surprised that they just are so unrelenting about it. And I think initially the way that they kind of had the character styles, I was like, this seems a little weird. But when you see it in action and you see how they utilize the animation, it like you said, every frame, it just feels like a thing of beauty, bro. It's
A painting. Yeah. I and listen, for me, she's a star. Sylvia Hooks, who's playing Sigrid. I had never seen her work prior to Blade Runner 2049, and then she played, I think, it's Angel, the replicant, and I was just like, oh, she was great in that. Where's more stuff? I want to see more stuff. And the fact that she's leading this says a lot about how much her performance is and how much you feel. There's moments, y'all, where you see how she's just driven by the like, I need blood. And she sees other folks, either friends or enemies or just bystanders, and looks at them like, is there anything beyond what the blood that I want? Am I gonna get something out of this at the end? And you see her connection with her husband or her lover, and how you see him almost being like, I'm with her to the end, but I'm also damning my own soul by doing this. And you almost see in her like, I don't want him to become worse than what I probably feel I know I'm going to become. I know I'm not going to be a good person anymore. Will he look at me the same way? Will we feel each other the same way? Um, there's moments, y'all, that you sense their mindset, what is going on in their head, without them saying a word. You see how I'll say this group that you follow, and I think this isn't a spoiler. You again, you sense Zach's love for Seven Samurai, for Magnificent Seven, how he puts together these group of individuals. One of these individuals is ready to help out a friend, and yet is wondering, after this, what's after this? Are we gonna be good? Am I gonna be good? Am I gonna be able to, connect with folks that I've been looking to connect with? And I just love that, like you said, in a barbaric, bloody way, you sense the humanity in these individuals.
yeah.
Individuals that, like, 5 seconds ago just cut somebody in half, and you're like, oh man, they're really feeling about if they're gonna see a sunrise, or if they're missing their loved ones. I again, I think for me, the episodes we've seen, nothing feels like overkill. Nothing feels like it's just there because it's rated R. Even the sex, even the bloodiness, like, it feels like, okay, at that time nothing was pretty. and yet some of it feels more free than now. You could say people can make the argument. There's this very it's visual love scene at the beginning, and it says all about these folks how like there's nothing they have to worry about, it's just them, the space, and the sky. And I thought that was so beautiful, and yet I'm like, when I've seen the teaser, this ain't gonna go well, and this is gonna suck to follow at points because you want the people to live a good life, and you know that their hands are dirty, and they're just gonna get dirtier and dirtier and dirtier.
Yeah, there's something I do want to add to this is that shout out to Jay Oliva. If you don't know who this man is, go
Yeah,
back and look at some of his contributions to some of the best DC animated features, series. He understands how to use animation very vividly. But the reason why I'll say this is a win, it's not just for Jay and Zach. This is a win for Netflix. They are on a roll. If you've seen Love, Death, Robots, if you've seen Arcane, if you've seen Castlevania, their Netflix is setting a bar that you don't really see because you see all these other shows and movies on Netflix, but they are setting a precedent that not only can animated films succeed, but outside of anime or animation outside of the United States, their animation can thrive from a series standpoint as well.
yeah.
And this contributes to that. But I think that Netflix has been ongoingly doing this, where they're adding and elevating what animation can be to a broader audience. And I think that I give them credit for that. And I mean, I'm thankful for Jay, thankful for Zach, but I am thankful that Netflix would choose to try. Because I mean, some people would look at this picture and be like, this looks like the Legend of Vox Machina, which I love. I love the Legend of Vox Machina. It's really dope. It's on Amazon Prime. Um, and it kind of at times you would think, okay, this is gonna be that. No, every single character that you saw in that little picture that I just showed has their own either tragedy or thing that they've done is just compromising. And you see it within the first 3 episodes. Every
Yeah.
single character up here has done something, and it's not noble, but it's very human at the same time. And I feel like when you go down the level of humanity and you start mixing in gods there, you have to show the brutality of what this really means. And I
Oh,
think this without spending too much time, from a narrative standpoint and from a character standpoint, they really go the distance. I think the narrative of this is framed really well. I don't know if this is actually based on an actual story of how this all goes, but I can believe it. I'm not even gonna lie. I could actually believe this is part of the actual story. But
people are gonna say this, but this is almost like what Zach did with 300, not just by style, but also what he did with that tale of the Spartans, and how it's not one to one accurate. It's what Frank Miller did in his graphic novel, and then Zach interpreted that graphic novel story into a film. I think this is going to be lined up the same way with that, and it's with animation, and it's in Netflix, but it's a story of Norse mythology, and I love that you said about that, about some of the characters. Like another one that I found fascinating is, I believe his name is Eagle or Eagle, played by Rahul Kohli, and he's the storyteller, the guy who tells all these stuff, and he has some magic in him. And as well, there's a point where there's this magic being who tells him, "Oh yeah, the storytellers," or I forget the wording. Um, they told a different version of what happened to me or what happened to my ancestors, and he was like, "Oh." Shoot, my bad. And it's a beautiful moment where it's just like, even in an interpretation of stories, you don't know all the facts. You don't know um, everything that would happen. That's what I love about adaptations like these, is that you get different perspectives from history or mythology.
yeah, it is it is pretty amazing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is probably one of the best things that Zach has kind of come out with.
Yes.
Um, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I really don't have much more to say because this is we're doing it in a non-spoiler context, you guys. Like, I can't really divulge too much. I will say that the composer of this is freaking Hans Zimmer.
Jesus.
I
mean, it makes sense. Zach and him are buddies, so yeah.
It's just what I will say is this. This was something that was a subtle surprise, and I think that if you give it a chance on what date, September the 19th, I think you're gonna really appreciate what this does. There's two different shows coming out at the same time. One is The Penguin and one is this. And both of these are very vastly different shows, but the one thing that they do have in common, no matter how brutal the world is, you will see how humanity reacts to that brutality. And that is at the central focus of this. This to me was a 10 out of 10 series so far.
Thus far, it's 10 out of 10. Thus far, the few episodes in that I've been watching this show, it's up there with some of the best shows of the year for me. And I told you this already, and we're talking about this as people are winning Emmys, that if this sticks to the landing for me, it's going to be up there with Shogun, with X-Men 97, with Fallout, with Penguin, and with Terminator Zero. That's all I'm going to say. And the fact that half of the best shows of the year are animated, that says a lot of how, like, everybody, you got to keep up with us, because those who appreciate animation know where the good stuff is at.
It's facts. It's facts. So we're going to go. We've given you everything, you guys. Ronan, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you. Where can everybody find your content?
I want to tell you all so much. There's a lot of stuff I don't want to spoil. But what I'm going to say is go to Ronan Unchained on YouTube, on the socials. I'm going to do my best to cover this show and just get the word out, because I think this show deserves it. And there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. You might see more Penguin stuff with this fool and me and another friend of ours. You might see. I'm going to leave it at that.
So yeah, if you guys want to see my reaction to the show, go to Ronan Unchained. We'll be back. We got a lot of interesting things. I just got back from Toronto International Film Festival, so I've got a lot of nuggets that you guys you're not gonna be ready for. Some red carpets, some interviews, some reviews. I can't wait to share with you guys, but I'm gonna go. We're gonna go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Ronan's channel. Subscribe here if you haven't. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, people.
Falling out the top of
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind.